What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Early Edge NFL Picks Show. Week 1, football is here. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. We'll be joined by some experts here in just a second. Reminder that the Early Edge NFL Picks Show is brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Let's get to some Week 1 NFL picks. I couldn't be more excited to welcome in these gentlemen, Mike McClure, Larry Hartstein, and R.J. White. Football is back. The Chiefs are going for a three-peat. The Ravens. What an unbelievable matchup. Ravens and Chiefs to kick things off. And, of course, a plethora of games, a Friday night game we'll get to as well. But let's dive right in, guys. We'll start with Thursday Night Football. Mike, your Chiefs taking on the Ravens as they defend their title and go for the three-peat. You back in the home team, or you got something else you're peeking at in this game?
Nothing on the outcome of the game itself. I do like the over quite a bit. I know that is a contrarian stance tonight, but I'm going to be on Zay Flowers where I'm looking most. I'm going over his receiving prop. Played this at 51.5. You can still find 52.5s in the market. I think the number is just a touch low considering the way Kansas City typically wants to make the Ravens play. And that's going to be make Lamar beat you with the arm. And I think that's going to be especially true with Derrick Henry in this lineup. But I really want to talk about Zay Flowers and the upside he flashed at the end of the season last year in big matchups. In the matchup with Kansas City, absolutely crushed that game at 115 yards in that one, had 106 against Miami, 72 against San Francisco, and played a key role in that AFC title game, losing a massive fumble, potentially costing the team the game. Certainly has revenge on the mind, but he's by far the number one option in this offense, and that's in the passing game. He'll be the number one overall option above Lamar and Derrick Henry if they're trailing by more than 3 points after halftime. Give me Zay Flowers here over 52.5 receiving yards.
And I'm going with a big-time receiver on the other side of the ball, a 3-time Super Bowl champion. You all know, of course, I'm referring to Justin Watson. This guy is stepping in for Hollywood Brown. They just love him. And his receiving prop is so low. I got it over 13.5. It's a number he cleared in 7 of his last 8 games. He's going to play with the starters with no Hollywood Brown, and they just trust this guy. He averaged 17 yards a catch last season, so we likely only need 1 catch. His prop for catches is 1.5. I think he's going to finish with 2 because you have Kelsey, you have Rashee Rice. Maybe you throw a deep shot to Xavier Worthy, but after that, to me, it's Justin Watson. So I just love this kid, and they've been raving about him and kind of bumping him up to get prepared for that Hollywood Brown role. And my second prop is on the other side, a guy replacing Patrick Queen. That's Trenton Simpson, the linebacker for the Ravens. Dominated the preseason, 11 tackles in 3 quarters against the Eagles. Only had 1 start last year against the Steelers, Week 18. Got 7 tackles in about 25 snaps. They love this kid. He's playing right next to Roquan Smith. I think the Chiefs are going to have a heavy ground game. That's going to help him. But he also rushes the passer. He also drops back in coverage, over 6.5 combined tackles.
I like it. I'm going to go full Uma Thurman here and just be a complete in total square. Give me the Chiefs -3 in this game. I think, and I wrote about this for CBSSports.com, I think there is a reasonable chance that the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs decide to do their best 2007 New England Patriots imitation and come out of here guns blazing, lighting everybody up. You now have Xavier Worthy who can bust open these cover 2 high cover shells, and Rashee Rice not going to be suspended. It looks like I would be shocked if he is this season. And Travis Kelce eating underneath. You mentioned Watson or Hollywood Brown options there. I think the Chiefs have an undefeated season ceiling in there, on the spectrum of things that they could pull off this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they came out, got a lead, and forced the Ravens to be one-dimensional. That would work for all of us, maybe, at least with the Zay Flowers shot as well. RJ, let's head to Friday night in São Paulo, Brazil. The Green Bay Packers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly is -2 in this home game, with a total of 49 at Corinthians Arena. What's your best bet for this game?
Yeah, I liked the Packers when I could get 3, which we could earlier in the week. Now it's down to 2. I think the line should still be a little bit lower. I don't know that there's a ton of difference between these teams. So my play here is to tease the Packers up at this still advantageous teasing number of +2, to tease them up to +8 with one of the teams I like on Sunday. So I think Jordan Love played like an MVP in the second half last year. He's going to test this new look Philly secondary that has added some pieces, but it's going to be a tough matchup for them with all the good receivers that the Packers have. So I think the Packers defense is going to be better this season with Jeff Hafley calling the shots, but Philly's going to get theirs too. So a high scoring game. I just don't see the Eagles running away from the Packers. So I love teasing this up to +8. And if it trends back toward the 3, that's when I'll be looking to say grab the Packers again at +3.
I'm extremely high on Philadelphia this season, and I think it starts early in this game. I'm looking to back them in the first half. You can find this here, minus a half a point. Simply, they got to be leading the game. Can't be tied, obviously, but if they're winning at halftime, that's what I'm looking for. And first of all, when you have this travel and the different environment in Brazil here, you look for things that might potentially travel a little better. I think the Eagles' style of play translates and travels a little better. And as far as that offense on the Green Bay side where they're likely having to take deeper shots down the field. And frankly, Jordan Love, he was fantastic at times. That playoff run they made was incredible. I really want to see a larger sample size of them replicating it. But I think that the Eagles side, they're going to have success offensively, adding Saquon Barkley to the mix and just having those receivers healthy. They've got a ton of depth. So I trust their offense to go out and score points early in this one. I like them to be leading in the first half here, lay them minus half a point in the first half.
Yeah, the super rare first time ever Friday night kickoff international NFL game. Look, the Eagles got 2 new coordinators, but they upgraded on both sides of the ball. So that certainly should be beneficial for them. Going to be a great game on Friday night. Speaking of great games, we have a plethora of them coming up on Sunday, including the Texans. CJ Stroud going up against his fellow high first-round pick from last year, Anthony Richardson, back on the field. We have all our best bets for the Sunday slate coming up next here on the Early Edge NFL Pick Show. Next. Welcome back to the Early Edge NFL Pick Show Week 1, presented by BetMGM. Will Brinson, Mike McClure, Larry Hartstein, and R.J. White giving out the best bets and all the leans, all the info you need to know for Week 1 of the 2024 NFL season. You know, it's not often that you get to call a offensive coordinator revenge game, Mike, but we get Steelers at Falcons. It's the Arthur Smith special. The game, I mean, like this game could go any which way. The Steelers might be clunky. The Falcons might be high flying, but we haven't seen the offense yet. What's your best bet for this 1 p.m. game on Sunday?
You know, I'm looking at the Steelers side, especially when you're getting 3 or 3.5s in the market. Strongly prefer it at the 3.5, obviously. When you look at this matchup, though, we're still talking about 36-year-old Kirk Cousins coming off a significant injury, now being introduced into a new team, a new offense, a team that's undergone a lot of changes. So for me, it's the Steelers defense. It's not so much talking about Russ Wilson or Justin Fields at all. It's really that Steelers defense against the quarterback recovering from injury, against a questionable offensive line, in my opinion. I think the Steelers defense is going to be able to do just enough. And I also think they're going to have success running the football with Najee Harris and really Jaylen Warren too. But Najee Harris, I really like him when he's fresh, starting this year, not hurt and just well rested in this environment. It's a low total at 42 because I think the defense ultimately wins out on the side of the Steelers. I'm looking for a tight competitive game. Wouldn't shock me if they win it outright, but it would shock me if they lost this by a touchdown plus. So I'll be on the Steelers side, plus 3.5.
Yeah, I thought Atlanta was overrated this summer with questions about their defense and Kirk Cousins' health. They upgraded the defense by adding Matthew Judon and Justin Simmons late in August. Cousins, by all accounts, looks ready to go. So I get this number moving from 3 to 3.5 at some spots. I can't trust Atlanta laying more than 3 until I see it with Kirk Cousins in this offense. So if it's at 3, there's a slight lean to Atlanta to me, but I'm with Mike. If it gets to 3.5, I think Steelers are probably the way to go in a tight game.
I mean, I'm telling you, man, Arthur Smith ball, nothing could be more exciting than watching him run Najee Harris into the line 475 times this season. Oh, or maybe he'll use Jaylen Warren. Who knows? Maybe he'll use a backup tight end. That's his game. Cardinals and Bills, also Sunday at 1 p.m. Bills are my Super Bowl pick. I think Josh Allen's my MVP, or Josh Allen is my MVP pick. I think he has an incredible season, and I think it starts against a Cardinals secondary with a lot of question marks on it, as well as a Cardinals defense in general that probably won't get after the passer. Then you flip to the other side. I'm taking the over here at 48, by the way, and the Bills announced that Damar Hamlin is going to start on the back end of their defense. Now that's a great story, and we should applaud that. The fact that a man who once died on a football field is starting a game in week 1 of the 2024 season. Sure, he got robbed by Joe Flacco last year, but now he can get back out there and try and redeem himself from the Comeback Player of the Year award. But the bottom line is, I don't think he's a very good football player. And I don't know that he should be starting for that Bills secondary. And I think Kyler Murray with Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, going to light up that Bills secondary. For me, I think this over is a great spot. We get into the 50s in week 1 here, Mike. Any thoughts or a lean on this game?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Will. Honestly, I lean to the over for the full game, but I really kind of want to isolate the Cardinals side at a friendly price point. You can find their team total 20.5 plus 102. I love their shot at getting to 21 or 24 points in this game. You talk about that offense. They're going to have a nice set of weapons offensively. And Kyler Murray, I think he is finally healthy. We know what he can do with his legs, and we know what he can do in trailing game scripts, which is still, again, incredibly likely for this team. I think that there's going to be defensive issues on both sides, but I found the most favorable way to back it here is looking for a 21st point out of the Cardinals. We'll go team total over 20.5.
All right, Titans and Bears, the Caleb Williams Show coming to town. The Bears hype train, Larry, is out of control here. I mean, Chicago, the Hard Knocks hype, the early offensive rookie of the year favorite. I don't know if you see these montages where Caleb, it's like 5 back-to-back throws. Caleb's slinging it all over the place. No one wants to fade Chicago, or do they?
I do. I mean, all the off-schedule plays, the electrifying quarterback play from Caleb Williams, they justifiably have excitement in Chicago. That offense with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, et cetera, is going to be good this year. But laying over a field goal, I mean, this was up to 4.5. To me, is just way too far. I mean, you have the Titans offense that looked just as good in the preseason, if not better. Will Levis had 4 drives, 3 touchdowns and a field goal, marched them right down the field. They're going to be much more wide open this year without Mike Vrabel. And now with Callahan in there, you get Tyler Boyd, you get Calvin Ridley, you get Tony Pollard, you still have DeAndre Hopkins, you still have a good tight end. So I think the Titans are going to be an exciting offensive team. And on defense, I mean, you add L'Jarius Sneed, you add Chidobe Awuzie, you get the Rams defensive captain 1 week before the season. They have made enough upgrades. It's year 2 for Will Levis. This is going to be a tight game. I'm definitely taking the points.
Yeah, Titans, one of my best bets here too. Look, Pete Prisco is Tuscan Castle. Will Levis, he had this whole thing where he's the next Josh Allen. Pete's been on fire with his quarterback predictions lately, so maybe it's not that crazy. I just think you're going to see a whole different Titans offense. I think Mike Vrabel's a very good coach, but this is a different coach, right? Now you get Brian Callahan in there. He's talking about EPA per play in his press conferences. Shoot it in my veins, man. And then you have Bill Callahan, his dad, who's an incredible offensive line coach. He comes in, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears. They add Calvin Ridley. There's a lot to like about this offense. I think they can hang with a Bears team that has got all the hype, all the sizzle, but not enough stake. Give me the Titans catching the points. Patriots and Bengals. Jamar Chase, I don't know if he's going to be out here, RJ. Does it matter to you? Are you taking the Bengals no matter what Jamar Chase's status is for this game? Bengals laying 8 at home against the Pats.
Well, if Jamar Chase was playing, I'd make it 11.5. So he's not worth that much to the line. So I still like the Bengals in this game no matter what. I think they're going to win by double digits. Lines come down. I guess that's projecting Chase to sit out while seeking that new deal. New England's just the worst team in the league. And when you get the worst team in the league against what everybody expects is a good team, that should be a double-digit spread at the good team's home field. So I think you're just getting value on the Cincy side either way. But now that it's come down a little bit and it's in that 8 range, definitely throw it in the teaser. They're going to be the team I tease with Green Bay here to take Green Bay up to +8, Cincy down to -2. It just seems like a pretty big lock here as far as teasers go for week 1. So that's the way that I'm playing this game. But I still love laying the 8 with Cincy too, if you want to go that way.
Nearly identical to you here, RJ. I made it 11.6. So yeah, just over 11.5 with Chase in, and would still play it with him out. I do think he ultimately plays here. It's a perfect candidate for a teaser leg in week 1 here. I made a teaser very similar to yours, but I'm taking a road dog, and that's going to be the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going Cincinnati -2, Dallas +8.5 here. I did agree with a little bit of the movement we see on the summer over that Dallas game, but now at 8.5, I think they're still going to be comfortably within that number. Love Cincinnati's chances of covering the -2 end of this teaser leg. So for me, it's Cincy and Dallas 2-team teaser.
I don't like the idea that the Patriots could keep it close. Like, I don't like thinking about the idea that the Patriots could keep it close, but 70+% of survivor entries are going to be on the Bengals this weekend. And this is the NFL we're talking about. We've seen crazier things. My guy, Jacoby Brissett, is going to be out there maybe making some magic happen for that Pats offense. I think they keep it a little bit closer than people expect. And so I'm going to take the under on Chase Brown rushing yards, 35.5. All this hype about Chase Brown all off season. I think he's going to slot in more as a pass catching back for the Bengals. And if they get a lead or it's a close game, it's going to be Zach Moss. We see this from the depth chart, sort of kind of maybe a misplay, a misnumber, whatever you want to call it, by the best ball bros when it came to backing Chase Brown so aggressively. All right. Don't get this often. This is where if I had a inflatable sledgehammer a la Tim Doyle, I guess I would bring it out, or, whoever, some sort of prop where we hammer the Colts, RJ. A lot of us like the Colts catching 3 against the Texans in this spot.
Yeah, once it gets to 3, I think you have to go Colts at home. Houston overperformed expectations last year, and they're kind of like the darling this year. Indy was still neck and neck with them all year with the backup quarterback, and that division came down to Week 18. Very close matchup there. Now you get Anthony Richardson back, and Indy's rush offense I think could dominate what might be a questionable Houston run defense in this game. Very hard to plan around what Indy's going to do here with Shane Steichen calling the shots there. I think the Houston offense should have a good game, but they're on the road. The offensive line is probably going to be tested in this game. I think Indy has a good shot of winning this game, but catching the 3 points, I think is kind of an auto play here with a home divisional dog for a pretty solid team in Indy.
I'm right there with you, RJ. We've watched this line continue to move. I made the spread in this game 1, Texans -1. Now you're getting 3, division game at home. Look, I think that you're dead on. I think the Colts are going to have success on the ground. You've got a healthy Jonathan Taylor, a solid offensive line, and a quarterback that is absolutely a top-tier player in terms of having that mobility. And I think that's going to help them keep drives alive and continue to move the chains, and most importantly, really eat some clock here and keep C.J. Stroud on the sidelines. That's going to be the key to victory in this game for the Colts. Whether or not they win, we'll see. I do think C.J. Stroud is one heck of a player. He's obviously got a ton of offensive weapons, maybe too many weapons early in the season, trying to figure out some of that usage. But I do question what that defensive line is like. I think that the Colts have success running the ball, so I will take the 3 points here.
Yeah, and look, if you're going to back the Colts, which I'm going to do in the same spot as you guys, why not back him early when they've got an Anthony Richardson, who we presume is going to be completely healthy? Shane Steichen has said, and I think we have to believe him based on the preseason usage, that he's not going to dial back the red zone runs from Anthony Richardson. We should see him utilized close to the line, close to the goal line, and that just makes it more likely he's going to score touchdowns, get some points, as Mike said, chew up clock, and keep C.J. Stroud and that plethora of weapons off the field. Jaguars, Dolphins, another, man, we have a loaded slate on Sunday. Another 1 p.m. game here, Larry. And this promises to potentially be a shootout. Dolphins -3.5, over under 49.
Yeah, I like Mike McDaniel, the mad scientist, having all off season to think about how he's going to attack the Jaguars. Is he going to go to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, or maybe hand it to Devon Achane, who's healthy and averages 8 yards a pop and can take it to the house at any point? They put up 36 points in week 1 last year. If you look at their September record at home under Mike McDaniel, they tend to put up big numbers, not even including the 70-point outburst against the Broncos. So I played the Dolphins team total over 26.5, and a lot of it has to do with how bad the Jags secondary is. They have a great pass rush. They have a great defensive line, but Tua gets rid of it so quick. You're trying to cover these guys with Tyson Campbell, Ronald Darby, Darnell Savage. In my mind, they do not have a top corner. They certainly don't have anyone who can stay with Hill and Waddle and all the other weapons that Miami has. I'm going over 26.5.
Yeah, I'm right here with you. I think when you look at what the Dolphins have, of course, Hill and Waddle, but they're going to move Devin Achane into the slot a ton, it sounds like, this year. And if they do that, good luck. Malik Washington, an explosive third wide receiver on that depth chart now, and then Jonnu Smith, the Yak King at tight end. This is a team that should be able to score against this Jaguar secondary. Conversely, Miami has no pass rush. Everyone's hurt. The Jaguars, both these teams, by the way, want to come out and, they give new contracts this offseason to the quarterbacks, come out, show off their new weapons. We got Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas, some really explosive vertical threats for Trevor Lawrence, who played good football last year, but he had suffered 3 kind of critical injuries, and it really banged up the back end of his season. So I like the over 49 here. I think we see a ton of points from both teams. Hopefully it's nice and cool in Florida to prevent any overheating, although the scoreboard may get a little hot with the points being put up in this game. All right, plenty to come here on the Early Edge NFL Pick Show for Week 1. We have an entire afternoon slate to get to, including the debut of Bo Nix, the first Broncos quarterback to start as a rookie in Week 1 since John freaking Elway, and a whole bunch of new faces in Seattle. Sean Payton coming to visit. We will give you our best bets coming up next. Welcome back to the Early Edge NFL Pick Show Week 1. Will Brinson joined by Mike McClure, Larry Hartstein, and R.J. White as we keep handing out best bets. We start, presented by BetMGM, by the way. We start with Panthers Saints as we wrap up the 1 p.m. slate. And inexplicably, my brain forgot that we ended 2023 and that it was okay not to take the Panthers every week, and have decided to take the Panthers here in this spot, catching 4 from the Saints. Now, maybe this is my anti-Derek Carr bias. Maybe it's my belief that this offensive line for the Saints is a unholy disaster and the Panthers will be able to get home with the pass rush. Maybe it's my blind faith in Dave Canales to inefficiently run the football with Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders enough to keep this in a field goal. I don't really know, but I have the Panthers +4 as a best bet. I would urge caution if tailing that one in terms of picks on this week. But I do think this Week 1 divisional game, maybe the Panthers surprise a little bit out of the gate. Larry, any leans on this game?
Yeah, right there with you. Divisional dogs in Week 1, we know how great they've been historically, even when you have a 2-win team. But they made massive upgrades to their O-line and their offense with Deontay Johnson and Xavier Legette. And then Dave Canales should turn Bryce Young into a competent quarterback, not a superstar, but a guy that can matriculate the ball down the field. And the Saints, the O-line could be the worst in football. Yes, they have a good defense, but Dennis Allen and Derek Carr as a favorite. I mean, the numbers are bleak, but the reason is because Dennis Allen is so conservative. You look at some of the games last year, they love to win 19-17 or 17-16. That is his preferred final score. So, yes, taking the points is the only way I could look.
Moving to a more attractive game from an aesthetic perspective, to a degree, Sam Darnold, which is really saying something. Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones are squaring off with the Vikings -1.5 at the Giants as a road favorite. Mike, you'd pegged this one last week on this very show as a game you were really looking at for Week 1. You're still leaning full bore into the Vikings in this spot.
I am, yes. Played a -1. Would still continue to play on at -1.5 and -2. I made the number over -3 here. Yes, it's very optimistic on the side of the Vikings, but I personally am just not ready to give up on Sam Darnold. I think that he was a really strong talent coming out of college. I think he's spent a lot of time in unfortunate situations and now finally walks into a situation where you've got a decent offensive line. You've got a great running back in Aaron Jones behind you that can not only run the ball effectively, but catch passes out of the backfield. And then, oh, by the way, you've got the best wide receiver in the NFL, and you get to face a very poor Giants defense in an environment that really doesn't offer much of a home field advantage in the NFL here. So I think this is a great time to back the Vikings here. We know Brian Flores will have that defense dialed up, putting pressure on Daniel Jones, likely forcing a mistake or two there. That'll ultimately be the difference in this game. But I'll take the Vikings here as long as Justin Jefferson's on that field.
I've got a best bet on the Malik Neighbors over receiving yards, 61.5. Couple outs here for it. One, the Giants come out and play really well early, and I think they'll feature Malik Neighbors. He's their top draft pick. Highlights all over the place in camp. They really ownership matters in New York with this team, and they want their top players to be featured. It's really stupid, but that's how they are. It's how Daniel Jones ended up with his contract. I think they will make sure to get Neighbors the ball early and often. And then there's a possibility where the Giants are trailing and they're forced to throw the ball a ton, and you're just going to see a bunch of targets fed Malik Neighbors' way. I think he clears this fairly easily and finds the end zone against Minnesota on Sunday, especially when you consider all the blitz packages Brian Flores throws. Should see plenty of one-on-one coverage out there. Raiders at the Chargers, both new lookish teams, right? I mean, Antonio Pierce is back, RJ, but of course Jim Harbaugh makes his debut in this spot. You had mentioned the Chargers. You had an early look for the Chargers with the new regime. You're still leaning in that direction.
Well, I don't know about that. I like the Raiders early. I like the one that were 3.5. I would still lean that way 3. I think the best way to play this game is the under. I know what both these teams want to do. Both of them want to run the football, play defense. I think Vegas is in a better spot to do that and have success doing that right now. Justin Herbert supposedly healthy, but those foot issues can linger. I mean, we've seen it time and time again where a quarterback with a foot injury, it just is a problem midway through the season when you thought it wasn't going to be a problem much past week 1. So the weapons they all have also aren't scaring anybody. I think it's going to be a growing process for the Chargers. I'm going to be targeting their unders because I don't think the offense is going to score a ton. I think them and the Raiders both want to play games where there are a limited amount of drives, so a limited amount of chance to score points. So even though this under has come down from 42, I still think it's going to finish under 40. So I have a best bet under 40.5 right now.
Sorry, that was my fault. When I said you'd hinted at it, you hinted at taking Chargers unders early in the season before the books adjusted, and that's where you were going with this one. I don't think anybody's loading on the Chargers. I found an interesting prop here for this one, though, that I think is a really good bet. Now, the plantar fasciitis with Justin Herbert's a concern, but he's not on the injury report. You can get Gardner Minshew and Justin Herbert combined over/under rushing yards. I'm taking the over 21.5. Gardner Minshew might do that on the first drive, just running around if Joey Bosa gets any kind of pressure or Khalil Mack gets in there. And I think with Herbert, I would not be surprised at all if we saw a couple of designed runs from Greg Roman. I don't think they'll be over aggressive with it because of the foot injury, but I do think we'll see some of that quarterback rushing action with the fleet of foot Herbert under center. Broncos at Seahawks, a would-be revenge game for Russell Wilson, but he's since been cut and is in Pittsburgh, so we'll have to wait for that one. Seahawks -6 here, RJ, hosting Bo Nix in his debut week 1 for the Denver Broncos. First rookie since John Elway.
I think the Knicks buzz got a little bit out of control in the preseason. Everybody jumped on Broncos overs. It seemed over 5.5 wins based on what they were seeing in the preseason, but it's the preseason. I mean, we know defenses aren't throwing out, complicated schemes or trying to really limit points. Really, I think this is a very tough spot for Knicks going to Seattle for his NFL debut. We know the crowd can get pretty raucous there. So it's going to be tough for him there. And I think the Seattle defense is going to be much better under Mike McDonald. I think Denver's going to have a tough time running the ball because they have a lot of talent there on the interior of that defensive line. And the Denver defense doesn't have the pass rush really to put pressure on Seattle's offensive line either. So I think Seattle scores points. So I don't mind this big line. I think the best way to play this is to take Denver's team total under 17.5 because I just don't see Bo Nix going into Seattle scoring a bunch of points. I don't see them running the ball effectively. So 17 seems like the cap on how many Denver's going to score in this game.
I think Bo Nix comes out and plays really confidently, and Sean Payton has him ready, particularly with that week 2 actual revenge matchup against Russell Wilson on deck. I think he's going to want Bo Nix to feel comfortable, and Javonte Williams running the ball really well. I think Denver keeps it really close in a low-scoring game here. I'll take the +6 with the Broncos as one of my best bets in that afternoon slate. All right, few more games left in the afternoon slate, but also Rams and Lions, Goff and Stafford with 3.0 at this point since they've been traded against one another. I mean, man, what a fantastic setup for Sunday Night Football. We'll have those best bets coming up on the Early Edge on CBS Sports Network next. Welcome back to the Early Edge, presented by MGM. Will Brinson, Mike McClure, Larry Hartstein, R.J. White. We're making our picks for Week 1 of the 2024 NFL season. A completely loaded slate. We are still checking in on the 4 o'clock games in that window, and we had the Cowboys Browns. The Browns now favored 2.5 points here, Mike. A total of 40.5. You've got to wrap up a teaser leg with this spot, right?
Yeah, going to wrap up the teaser leg. It's going to be Cowboys plus 8.5 with Cincinnati -2 against the Patriots. When I look at the Cowboys team, I'll be the first to admit I backed their unders for the season. I backed them to miss the playoffs. I think they're going to lose a lot of games this year. I think the way they lose them, though, is going to be in close fashion. They're going to be competitive games. They're going to be close games, but I think they're going to often find themselves on the wrong side of those one-score outcomes. So for me, with the key number here, 8.5, I think it's a great teaser leg, as I think the game can be competitive. They may come up short, but I don't see them getting blown out here. I'll add them to that teaser with the Bengals.
Well, we can both win here, Mikey, because I took the Browns on the money line when this line flipped the zero, with everyone loving the Browns because they're facing 2 rookie offensive linemen, including a left tackle, Tyler Guyton, that has to face Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, the number 1 defense at home, where the Browns went 8-1. And what I really like on the Browns side is the health news that they've gotten regarding some of their main offensive linemen. So no Nick Chubb yet, but the offensive line should be good to go. Deshaun Watson is good to go. And this is a defensive game, but there are going to be opportunities for Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. You don't have Deron Bland, who himself supplied 5 defensive touchdowns for the Cowboys last season. One of the things that is unsustainable, and why I think a lot of us agreed under 10.5 when that Cowboys win total came out. But yeah, I think the Browns win a tight one, a low scoring game in Week 1.
Yeah, we can all 3 win here. Cowboys lose by 7 or less, and CeeDee Lamb scores a touchdown. Nothing's guaranteed in the NFL when it comes to touchdowns. I do think when you look at the way this offense changed last year, it really looked like a Green Bay Mike McCarthy offense, where they locked in on the quarterback locks in on an alpha receiver and feeds him the ball, especially in the red zone. And we saw that with CeeDee Lamb. He's gotten paid now. He's going to get out there and be his usual self. And I expect very big things from maybe the best wide receiver in all of football. I think a touchdown at plus 130 here is a pretty good look. Elsewhere in the NFC East, the Commanders head down to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. Bucks laying 3.5, Mike, a total of 44. You have a rare best bet spot for us in this game as the standalone best bet.
Yeah, it's going to be the Commanders' money line for me. I know, very contrarian stance here. I'm just not super high on Tampa Bay. I know that in my opinion, they overperformed in a lot of situations last year, and I don't know that they're going to be able to do that again. But one thing I am pretty confident in is Jaden Daniels. I think this offense for the Commanders is going to be able to put up points, and that's what you got to do in this kind of a matchup. I like the backfield. I know it's going to be a timeshare, but I like it early in the season when everyone's well-rested and healthy. I think later in the year it could be a problem, but early this season, I think that Jaden Daniels is going to have success with his legs. He's got the true number 1 wide receiver in Terry McLaurin. He's got 2 capable tight ends out there as well. So for me, it's more of a bet on the Commanders' offense and just not thinking that Tampa Bay can really replicate what they were able to do last season. I like the price point here, plus 154, made the price point on it plus 120. So a little bit of value here as you're projecting them to win less than 40% of the time. I just don't see that being the case here.
Very interesting pick for Mike because the last 7 rookie quarterbacks that started week 1 all lost since 2020. So that would be breaking the mold here if he's able to do it. It's tough trusting a rookie quarterback on the road in the debut, but I agree that I don't think Tampa's that good, especially on defense. That's why if I'm going to play this game, it's going to be over 44. It feels like Washington's defense also has work to do. So I think it's going to be a sneaky, high-scoring game that, everybody projects 49, 50 points from a game like Houston, Indy, or the Green Bay game, but I think this one could come in a lot higher than people expect too. So if I'm playing this one, it's going to be the over.
Ooh, that's spicy. Maybe a little skinny stack when it comes to DFS. Gets you some Terry McLaurin, some Chris Godwin out of the slot, and surprise some people with it. I dig that. Sunday Night Football is a fever dream for me personally. Revenge games, Matthew Stafford, my Detroit Lions. I mean, everything you could possibly want in a game. And RJ, you're here to ruin my good time and my Matthew Stafford MVP futures out of the gate, aren't you?
Look, the playoff game was close, but Detroit led throughout, and the teams went in opposite directions this offseason. Detroit got better. The Rams got worse. They lost one of the best defensive players in history in Aaron Donald. Traded linebacker Ernest Jones. I expect Detroit to put up a big number here. Maybe Stafford can match, but there's offensive line questions here with the left tackle suspended. Detroit's defensive line making additions with Marcus Davenport and DJ Reader. I think they could dominate this game up front. I think this line should be closer to 7 than 3. So that's why Detroit minus 3.5 is a best bet for me. I think what happened in that game in the wild card round last year is making people think these teams are a lot closer than they actually are.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a 3, but I'd still play it at 3.5, RJ. Jared Goff is 7-0 against the number in week 1, which I found interesting. And facing the cheapest defense now in the entire NFL without Aaron Donald, they lose their defensive captain. I just think it sets up well for a Lions smash spot. I love the way they improved their secondary. Stafford and Puka Nacua both banged up in the preseason. I think the Lions get off to a fast start.
If I had any authority whatsoever, I would throw you both off this show right now for the lack of respect for the Rams and the complete slander of Colby Parkinson. You don't think that's an upgrade this offseason? Look, Rams missing their left tackle, which is a bit of a problem for the spot. Obviously, I do think the Lions you can make a case that they should be the favorite to win the NFC and that they have the best roster top to bottom in all of football. I don't think that that's that crazy of a take, but I do think the Rams aside from the Aaron Donald thing, obviously, I do think they got better this offseason. I think they're better in terms of a well-rounded team, and I think they're going to be there in the mix to win the NFC West, to win the NFC, and to make a run. So I'm taking the 3.5 here with Matthew Stafford in a double, triple revenge game spot. Mike, any thoughts on Sunday Night Football?
I think you might be doing the show solo next week. It looks like I'm going to lean to the Lions side here, minus 3.5. Look, I think that these teams are both good teams. I would not be stunned at all if they were both in the playoffs again. We know the Lions definitely should be, but I personally think the Rams are a fringe playoff team, and they've got a ton of skill position players. I just don't think it's the best matchup for them because it's one that requires them to be nearly perfect because we know this Lions team is going to score. This is not a game that they're going to win an ugly game 20-17, talking about the Rams. So for me, I like the Lions side. I would actually be looking at backing the Lions also on a first half team total over. I think they're going to put up points early in this game. Some scripted drives out of the locker room. I think they find early success, but Lions side here for me.
Look, not going to lie to you. I mean, if these 3 sharps are taking the Lions and this big bag of squares over here is taking the Rams, you might want to consider laying the hammer on Detroit on Sunday night. You're also going to have some action on Monday night as well. The return to Aaron Rodgers. He only lasted 4 snaps last year on Monday night. Hopefully he lasts much longer. Jets at the 49ers, a huge game, a possible Super Bowl matchup, if we're being honest. We have all the Monday Night Football wagers you need coming up next here on The Early Edge.
If I didn't think we could win the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be playing. I'm not trying to coast into irrelevance. There were some dark days, heartbreak and sadness. There wasn't a lot of wins to celebrate, but there's some beauty to be found in the void. being counted out, an afterthought, an underdog has been kind of my path.
I've had a chip on my shoulder ever since high school, junior college, Division I, being a backup, getting overlooked on draft day. 3 years as a backup.
We've got breaking news.
Aaron Rodgers out for the season.
His career may very well be over.
It would be kind of unprecedented for a 40-year-old quarterback to come back off an Achilles injury and play at a high level. I don't think anyone's ever done that. How much personal motivation does that bring to you?
More now that you've mentioned that.
Welcome back to the Early Edge Week 1 NFL show. Will Brinson, Mike McClure, Larry Hartstein, and R.J. White. We got to take a look. You saw it. Aaron Rodgers returned to Monday night. I mean, you couldn't have scripted a worse Jets debut than what happened to Aaron Rodgers last year. 4 snaps before he was out for the season. Disastrous start. And the NFL rewards him by tossing him right back on Monday Night Football. And he's a 4-point dog to the defending NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. Mike, do you have a best bet and which direction are you going on this Monday night game?
Yes, I'm going to be on the Jets here at 4.5. You can find 4s and 4.5s in the market out there. Definitely grab the 4.5 if you can. When I look at this matchup here, I think these teams are going in opposite directions, and it's very clear that the Jets should be better than they were a year ago. In fact, I would say it was pretty remarkable what they were able to do a year ago with the quarterback play and some of the coaching that they had. But they really got a lot better, at least on paper here. They've got Garrett Wilson, obviously one of the better receivers in the league. I think he takes a massive step forward with competent quarterback play. Breece Hall, the second best running back in the NFL, in my opinion. Offensive line got better. They brought in other weapons. I think this is a Jets team that is a legit contender to not only win their division, but compete in the playoffs. And then the 49ers, I think they take a little bit of a step back. Still a great team, but to me it projects as a lower scoring defensive battle. Clock going to be moving heavily here. I think that the Jets are not going to win this game outright, but they do fall within the number here, plus 4.5.
Mike, you said something interesting when you said on paper, because yes, the offensive line should be a lot better, but they haven't taken a snap together with Aaron Rodgers, a 40-year-old coming off a major Achilles injury, and now your first live snaps are going to be at San Francisco. To me, that's a really tough matchup. And on the other side, the Niners got Brandon Ayuk in. They got Trent Williams in, and the Jets don't have Hassan Reddick. Remember, Bryce Huff is gone. That was a 20% pressure rate that you're going to have a hard time replacing. There's still going to be a good defense, and hopefully Hassan Reddick comes in, but it doesn't look like he'll be there in week 1 from what we're seeing. So I'm going to lean the other way.
I'm also going to lean to the Jets. I think that you could put this line on the other side of 3 and it wouldn't shock me. I think these teams are closer than this line is making out. Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams are back. We'll both hit the ground running after an abbreviated camp. Are they going to be at maximum capacity here? I'm not sure. Against a top-tier defense, I think the Jets can limit San Francisco's offensive output and especially give that offensive line problems. And talking about Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't have to be MVP level to make this offense competitive with the way they upgraded their offensive line. So I think the Jets are going to keep this one close here. I wouldn't be surprised if it lands on 3 or the Jets actually win outright.
Yeah, it feels like you're going to see a lot of people wanting to take San Francisco. You know, everybody. Christian McCaffrey's healthy. Brandon Ayuk back in the fold. Trent Williams back, and those guys make a huge difference, no doubt about it. I just think that this Jets team, those upgrades on the offensive line cannot be overstated. I don't know if, we're going to see Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses healthy throughout the entire, duration of the season, but they are going to be healthy for week 1. And that's going to mean protection for Aaron Rodgers. He was pressured on every single snap, every single drop back, and Zach Wilson was too last year early on in that game against the Bills. So I like the Jets to keep this close enough to stay within 3. There's a lot of kind of like intermingling here. Aaron Rodgers, revenge against California. You got just coaching staffs, a lot of different pieces in place. Should be a fantastic Monday Night Football game, but I'm going to take the Jets in this one. That'll do it for us and our picks on this show. If you liked our picks, of course, make sure to subscribe to the Early Edge podcast on the SportsLine YouTube channel, but head over to SportsLine. Head over to Early Edge podcast, a daily SportsLine betting podcast. You scan the QR code on your screen. You can listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, head on over to SportsLine.com, where we have winners all across the board, every sport, every week, all the time, whenever you want it, 60% off. Make sure to head over to SportsLine.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. For RJ, for Mike, for Larry, I'm Will. We will see you guys later.